Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
Western corridor in Molineux affected by land slippage has been declared a sub-national disaster zone by NADMA. We'll have details to this story and more in the national report. With the details to the news for Friday, January 3rd, 2020, I am Rakisha St. Louis. The section of the road on the Western Corridor in Molineux, St. George, that was deemed unsafe for motorists and closed off by the Acting Commissioner of Police, Edwin Martin, on December 16th, has been officially declared as a sub-national disaster zone by Minister with responsibility for disaster management, Senator the Honorable Dr. Winston Garwe, on Friday. There has been rapid slippage of the land from as far back as November 2019, and teams have been monitoring the situation closely. Letters have since been written and issued to homeowners in the immediate vicinity to relocate as the slippage has gotten worse.
Within our protocol from NADMA, that is, we have the ability to look at the extent of damages and to declare subnational disasters. In this case, seeing that it is not the entire country, but it's one location within the country, we can declare it a subnational disaster. And of course, it is a subnational disaster. So the area is declared a subnational disaster zone. We will have to raise funding to do the necessary studies to ascertain the extent of this land slippage. And when that is done, we'll be able to give a more precise set of information as it relates to what exactly is happening. But what we can see as it is right now, the fault line or the cracks that we're seeing is extremely massive. Some areas is, to me, over 5 feet deep in terms of movements, and that is dangerous. The entire area, as I have seen, is unstable and is extremely dangerous for people to be in this area.
The fault line of the slippage has been extended further than was recorded in previous visits, and as such, residents are cautioned to be observant of their surroundings. Registration is now ongoing for the 2020 staging of the Independence Calypso Monarch competition at the Cites bus terminus, and coordinator of the event, Adrian Mark, says there will be some visible changes to the competition in 2020 as the committee continues on its effort to improve the product. The competition is organized by the National Celebrations Committee and coordinated by the Ministry of Culture. We have more in this report from Sheria Noel.
Calypsonians wishing to participate in the 2020 National Celebrations Committee Independence Calypso competition, coordinated by the Ministry of Culture, now have an extended deadline of January 8th to submit their entries. The final of the competition is scheduled for 8 p.m. on January 25th at the Cites bus terminal. Senior Cultural Officer within the Ministry of Culture, Adrian Mark, says the extension is to give everyone wishing to participate an opportunity to do so.
So we have two stages. A preliminary round where Calypsonians are judged via flash drive and CD. And then we name the finalists going up against the monarch. So we have a preliminary round and then we have a finals. The preliminary round, the Calypsonians are judged using flash drive and CD. Today is the deadline, but I push back the registration for the 8th, which is next week, Wednesday. So the Calypsonians, they have to send in their songs on CD and flash drive. And then we have the preliminary judging will be Friday, which is the 10th. And also, after the preliminary judging, the same day we will give out the names of the finalists coming up against Sour Serpent.
For the 2020 competition, Mark says there will be some changes as to the number of Calypsonians that will be selected from the preliminary stage into the final of the competition.
We are having 11 coming up against the reigning monarch, which is 12. So we have 3. We give and take. He decided to give and take with me, so we leave out 3. But because it's one song, I always feel that we should have a full quota, which is 15. But because of some constraints, which I cannot make mention, because of some constraint, we have 11 coming up against Sean Niles, the reigning monarch. So that gives us a number 12.
In previous years, 14 Calypsonians were selected to challenge the reigning monarch for the crown.
The Ministry of Culture is really responsible for the Independence Calypso. And this year, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. But this year, we have something we want to do different than what we did previous years. The thing about the previous years, we just used to have Calypso. We want to do something different, even before and during the intermission. So I don't want to let the cat out of the bag yet, but definitely will be different than over the years, where we just only have Calypso singing. The preliminary round, we have 3 judges. For the finals, we have 5 judges. The competition will start at 8 p.m. Bus Terminus Saturdays. It's a breeding ground for Calypso. I don't know why, because we tried to do that Independence Calypso in a different parish, and it was never successful. But every time we have it in Saturdays, it's a successful venture. So it'll be difficult for us to move it because we tried and it didn't work. So the competition will be Saturdays Bus Terminus, 25th of January 2020 at 8 p.m. sharp.
Sean Niles, also known as the Sour Serpent in the Calypso arena, is the defending monarch. For the National Report, I am Sherian Noel.
Thank you, Sherian. This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Did you join the public service on or after February 22nd, 1985 and have since retired? This might be important to you. Government understands that the NIS pension may be insufficient to take care of your needs. So, while it awaits the court's ruling on the matter of pension for public officers, government has taken action to protect your quality of life so that you can take care of your needs in the meantime. Persons who joined the public service on or after February 22nd, 1985 and serve continuously in an established position for a minimum 26 years and 8 months and retired at age 60 may be eligible to receive an advance payment, which when combined with NIS represents 70% of their last salary. For more information, call or visit the Pension Secretariat in the Department of Public Administration, Ministerial Complex, 440-3767.
Welcome back. The government of Grenada extends its deepest sympathy to the children and surviving relatives of former Deputy Prime Minister Mr. Herbert Prudhomme, who passed away on January 2nd, 2020. Mr. Prudhomme served as Deputy Prime Minister under the leadership of former Prime Minister, the late Sir Eric Matthew Gairy. Government also recognizes Mr. Prudhomme's long and valuable service to the constituency of St. John, which he was elected to serve as parliamentary representative on 3 occasions. In reflecting on the life of Mr. Prudhomme, Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honourable Keith Mitchell said, and I quote, "Herbert Prudhomme will long be remembered for his commitment and dedication to the people of Grenada. He was kind, caring and compassionate, a man for the people. He always sought the interest of the ordinary man, a most memorable and appreciated trait." Unquote. Dr. Mitchell remembers the late former Deputy Prime Minister as a very loyal member of the Grenada United Labour Party. He said we must always be grateful for the stellar contributions of those who have helped to develop the foundation on which our country is built. Many persons have made tremendous sacrifices and invaluable contributions to chart our path of development. We are indeed grateful for the leadership of persons like Mr. Prudhomme. We wish him eternal peace. Finally, in the news, schools across the nation will engage in an hour of prayer activity on the first day of the Hillary term on Monday, January 6th, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. The Ministry of Education, Human Resource Development, Religious Affairs and Information has initiated this activity under the theme, Teach Me to Pray and to Understand the Power of Prayer. Annette Moore has more in this report.
The Minister for Education, who met with religious ministers today to finalize plans for the Hour of Prayer, explained where the idea originated from.
The Hour of Prayer is something that came to me while I was in church during a worship session. And, I just sense deeply the Spirit of God saying that on the first day of school, every student across the nation should be praying together for the same thing. And the minute I got that, I started sharing with a couple pastors and ministers. I invited the denominational board that are involved in the operation of our schools. I invited them to come sit and discuss that. I invited some pastors who have been involved in the work of the Ministry of Education and Religious Affairs, and everyone was totally in support. I am so extremely happy for the support for this initiative.
Minister Pear also explained the thought behind the theme.
This theme was chosen because we want to draw attention to the need to teach our children not just math and English and science, which is very critical and important, but let us also teach them to pray. And not just to pray as in reciting a prayer, but teaching them to pray with faith that something will really happen when they pray. And that is the whole essence of the activity.
Between 9:30 a.m. and 10 a.m., one of the activities that is expected to happen at the same time island-wide is students being led in praying the Lord's Prayer. Religious ministers and, where necessary, suitably selected representatives have been designated to lead the Hour of Prayer in schools. As part of the activity, prayers will be offered up for all members of the school's community and the nation as a whole. There will be time for reflection and meditation, and for praise and worship. Ministers of religion who attended today's meetings with Minister Pear and senior officials in the Ministry of Education shared their thoughts about the Hour of Prayer activity and why they thought it was important.
I think it's biblical and not denominational or political. It's biblical, and that's the premise on which I will participate in it. I always read and explain Romans 13 in that regard, where the government is responsible for the discipline in the nation, and the church is responsible for the spiritual realities of the nation. So that is how I put it, that we work together to ensure discipline in our nation. And it comes with prayer also.
I think it's a very great initiative, and it's timely, because in our nation now we realize that the trend that our children or even our students are taking is one of concern. And it's important that we have the presence of God, and it will start in the school, which will positively impact the home at large.
I wish it was more than just the 1 hour this Monday, and it could have been an every Monday event. And I know that's not possible. That kind of gives an idea as to where I stand in relation to that. I believe it is absolutely important. I believe it is beneficial for the school. It's beneficial especially for the children. We've got a lot of children that really and truly have very little idea about God, very little relationship in terms of the knowledge of God. And an activity like this is an open door for further growth and development in that principle.
In general, I feel really good. I feel like a dream come true, like a prayer answered. So many years as a proud Grenadian, I believe in giving back to society and in impacting the next generation, because somebody 25, 26 years ago invested in my life and over a decade, and I now want to give back. And presently in schools, some of the schools doing that as well.
Oftentimes we speak about the importance of spiritual values and such like, but it is just talk. Here we are seeing action being taken, real action, to actually begin the school term in this way. The Bible says that if we seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, all things shall be added to us. And this is an opportunity to put God first at the beginning of the term before anything else is done.
The prayer is what intrigued me really, the All Father prayer. I mean, we are crossing a lot of the denominational lines, which is very good, which is something we want to do for years. But also, unity, there's power in unity. All of us coming together at the same time. This is the first time we've seen that in history.
On Monday, staff at the Ministry of Education will also join with schools in prayer at the ministry at the time scheduled for the hour of prayer. Minister Peer says this has also spurred on talks of the hosting of a National Day of Prayer, discussions for which are currently in progress.
This hour of prayer has sparked a lot of discussion about a National Day of Prayer. And so a number of ministers have expressed their willingness to support the government in planning and organizing a National Day of Prayer. We are looking at that weekend in February where we observe our independence celebration, lead up to our independence celebration. And we are going to be dialoguing a lot more with our religious community, the Conference of Churches and the Alliance of Evangelical Churches to work together to find the best program, possible way of observing a National Day of Prayer. And of course, that may more be a weekend of prayer because we want to make accommodation for persons of different religions.
For the National Report, I'm Annette Moore.
Thank you, Annette. That story just ended the National Report for today, Friday, January 3rd. Let's recap the top story. Western Corridor in Molyneux affected by land slippage has been declared a sub-national disaster zone by NADMA. On behalf of the entire news team here at the Government Information Service, I am Rakisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Keep sending out good signals. Pay attention to your audience. Let your light shine. What's for you will be for you. With the real ones rooting for you. Just let your energy introduce. You know why. So we'll worry about that next man's try. Try to match up on next man's life. Fix your life. And as soon as I start walking on, you want to make something must be wrong, your man. I don't come here for that. All your head, man. But I'm going to I'm not telling you.
Good morning, good morning, good morning to all of our listening audience. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. It's a new year, it's a new day, and it's still beautiful here in the Spice Isle. A special good morning to all of you joining us on 97.5 City Sound FM, 89.5 CRFM, 92.9 Sister Isle Radio, and that's broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, 94.9 We Noise Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. And of course, to those of you joining us on the live video, Remember to like it, share it, involve everyone in the conversation. And of course, to those of you who don't have social media, you can go ahead and join us on HARDTALKGrenada.com, and you can access the live video on YouTube there as well. Well, of course, let's take this opportunity to wish each and every single one of you listening to us this morning a very bright, prosperous, and productive 2020. We have so much to look forward to. We have so much to be grateful for as we look back on the years before and look forward to the things that we have to come. And of course, it's Monday. And with me in studio, I have none other than Mr. Bola. Good morning, Mr. Bola. How are you?
Good morning to you, Miss Duncan. I am very well. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to the technical operator. And, of course, to everyone listening to us by whatever means, whatever medium. 2019 is gone. 2020 is here with us, and I look forward for it being, as you have said, a very positive one, a prosperous one, a productive one, one that I think at the end we can all look back at and be very proud that we would have grown by leaps and bounds in our various endeavors.
Absolutely.
Because, we all would want to make new resolutions at the beginning of the year. I have some of my own that I have made, and I hope others would have done and would seek the assistance of the Master to ensure that they fulfill what they want to do for 2020, all being good things, I hope.
Absolutely. Well, we have a lot to talk about, and we're not going to waste a lot of time talking about things that we would have had to refute last year. And we hope that this year we don't have to spend a lot of time refuting a lot of negativity, but focusing a lot on the positive things and all of the things that we have to look forward to, our future developments, like we always say, you may not agree with everything that the government does all of the time, but we must see the benefit of what they do for the country, not for the individual person, because it may not benefit you directly or you as an individual, but it definitely benefits our country. And that is what is most important. Now, Mr. Bola, to begin this morning, I promised a few people, along with myself, that I would make mention of this. It's more of an appeal to the drivers who are now utilizing the Mount Morris Road on the western side. It's a very unfortunate situation what has happened. We are very grateful for the fact that no lives have been lost as a result of this devastation, and of course we hope that there will be a quick and sustainable long-term resolution to this issue. However, in the meantime, while some of the drivers are utilizing the Mount Morris Road, we want to appeal to them as a resident, as a parent in the area, to limit the speed. The road is already very narrow as it stands, and it's I don't want to say it's inconvenient, because it's not inconvenient, but it's a challenge, because some of the drivers are very inconsiderate in their driving. They speed through as if it was a highway with no consideration for the fact that this has for a very long time been a private community. And you have persons who are accustomed to, even elderly persons who are accustomed to utilizing the road in a certain way. And you have to give respect to that, and be considerate in the fact that there are private individuals utilizing this road. You're passing right in front of somebody's doorstep in most occurrences. sometimes they're passing through not only with speed but loud music, and I mean, I want to appeal to them, to be just a little bit more considerate in their driving and how they use the road. Because if they continue along that lines, not only is it going to inconvenience the persons living in the area, but they're going to destroy the road in no time.
Well, I'm not sure about the speeding and the destruction of the road, how those two correlates, but definitely the appeal is for better care and attention. Definitely, we know it's a bypass. We know it's a temporary move with the hope, as you rightly said, that some sort of permanent or sustainable solution could be formed or found soonest for the Molyneux Road. There have been talks about a completely new road. There have been talks about major repairs. The assessments are being done. The deterioration is continuing at a rapid pace. And so I think the engineers and consultants are looking at what the best solution will be. Two vehicles can pass and have been passing, but the amount of traffic on that road has been quite limited over the many years it has existed. And the community has become accustomed to a slow pace kind of a road where they walk freely.
Yes.
A vehicle don't just rush up on them every minute or every minute and a half. It may be a half hour before they see one vehicle go in either direction. So they have been accustomed to that, and they now have to adapt to that new way with regular traffic constantly, buzzing through. So we're just appealing both to pedestrians and people in the community, the neighborhood, that now you have to be absolutely careful. You have to be more conscious, understanding that there's far more vehicular traffic on that road now. So maybe the way you were lingering and taking your time on the road and walking without care and concern, you now have to add some care and concern because there's a lot more traffic. But also the drivers, especially the busmen, who we know your business is picking up passengers and the hustle, and there's a lot of competition. But you ought to understand that you are on a new road that has not been used primarily for traversing the buses before. So be considerate, drive with some caution, look out for pedestrians, look out for the oncoming vehicle. It's kind of narrow road. Sometimes you may have to back up, other times other people may have to back up. But let's just understand that that is the circumstances that exist before us now, and we make best use of it. We do it in a way that we accommodate everyone. Be considerate. Just be considerate. We are known as a people for being kind-hearted and being considerate. The foreign people always talk about how Grenadians are hospitable and so forth. Let's do it to one another. Let's do it to our brothers and our sisters. And let's make this thing, possible until a solution is being found. And I believe, Ms. Duncan, that we should engage the Minister for Works in soon time to get an update as to where they are. Last time he did a visit to the area in Molyneux, we did speak to him by phone. Yes. And I think we probably should get an update as to where they are. From then to now, there must have been some developments, some internal discussion, some possibilities of what may be next in line, so we can inform the public.
Right, and he was here during the Christmas season, and he did give a brief update, but I believe that a lot has happened within that time, because from pictures and videos that we've seen, the road is very fast deteriorating, at any moment you could hear that the whole area has slipped. So I know that they have appealed to persons to stop traversing the area so that they don't get themselves into unnecessary harm. I believe the residents that are in that direct area have already been moved, relocated, and they, it's really even though they've been relocated, it really is still a big inconvenience, a big loss for them, of course. So we do sympathize with them. But I really do have to appeal to the people. Just a little bit more consideration, and a little bit more patience too, because I mean, there are some areas of the road that are very narrow, and you'd find some drivers are just not willing to yield. I mean, they're just not willing to yield. There's no patience. There's no road courtesy. I mean, a little bit more of that could go a long way, to make the situation a lot more comfortable for everybody that is affected by it.
True. And let me just add, as you mentioned, and we're speaking Molyneux and the rapid deterioration. I did hear the police making an appeal, because it is apparent that some persons, some road users, drivers in particular, have been removing the no entry signs and been traversing, which is a very dangerous thing to do.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're breaking a traffic regulation, because the police has that power under the law to determine whether a road can be closed off or not. So it's not what I think or you think. If the police believe that there is need for whatever the reason to close off a road, we have to obey that. So one, you're disobeying, but secondly, it's very dangerous. I mean, the warning has been placed. It's land that has been slipping rapidly. You go to sleep the night and you wake up the morning, and you look at what you left there yesterday is gone. And please, for your sake as drivers, and if there are buses that are practicing that, passengers, please ask them to drop you if they decide that they want to go that route, because it is really dangerous. And I really do hope that people would allow good sense to prevail. And not take the chances. I mean, sometimes we say we need to be adventurous, but I think this one is more than being adventurous. We just need to take caution and sometimes obey, even if we don't like it, even if we think, what all the fuss about? There is a need to obey the laws of the land. So I just thought I'll appeal.
Of course.
To the people out there.
And for those of you who have not had an opportunity to see what it looks like, you can go to the GIS Facebook page. They have done an updated story with updated pictures and so on. I believe that NOASA is working in the area to move the main pipe that runs along that area, along with Grenlec, to remove the poles and put them more on a safer route. So we're hoping that these things can be done before there is total slippage. But, of course, we understand that it's an inconvenience for everybody involved. But at the end of the day, it is for betterment and safety, right? But today, our topic for today is the NIS. And it's timely because we would know that as of the beginning of the year, the rates for the NIS would have increased. And I thought it absolutely necessary for us to give more information, Mr. Bola, as it relates to the NIS, because not a lot of people understand what the NIS is all about or what benefits you can get. Some people just believe that you pay the NIS to receive a pension, or you pay the NIS and if you go on sick leave, then they give you a little money. And a lot of people believe that that is what the NIS is all about. But it is so much more than just that. So, of course, we know that the increase has happened, right? So our next payment cycle, which I believe is the 14th of January.
Yes.
Employers will now be paying a rate of 6%, and employees will be paying a rate of 5%. That would take it from 9% to 11%, right? And I believe that it's absolutely necessary for us to give some more information on the NIS, or as it relates to the NIS. So in doing my research, I found out, which I didn't know, so research is so important, that the NIS to date has a total of 17 benefits.
17.
17 benefits. right? And it's categorized under 3 brackets. You have the long-term benefits, short-term benefits, and employment benefits. Now, we may not be able to go through them all today, but I'll try to get through as much of them as possible. And I want to start off with the sustainability plan before we go into the benefits, right? So the Section 22 of the National Insurance Act stipulates that the actuarial review, or that an actuarial review be carried out every 3 years, all right? Now, the findings or the purpose of the review is to review the operations of the fund, to report on the adequacy of the fund, and to recommend timely changes to ensure the sustainability of the fund and to ensure that benefits provided are meeting the needs of the population. So that is really the purpose of the actuarial review. All right. Now, the key findings of the 11th actuarial review, which was done in 2016, right? The annual contributions are not sufficient to pay all annual expenditure. Investment income must be used to pay the annual expenditure, right? And the reserve continues to grow. Now, starting in 2022, total income, which is contributions, investment income, and other income, are no longer sufficient to pay the annual expenditure, right? And the reserve starts to decrease, right? During the year 2035, the reserve drops to 0. Starting in 2035, the required annual contribution rate to pay for all expenditure becomes 22.5%. All right? And lastly, the reserve to expenditure ratio, which is the ratio of the end-of-year reserve over the annual expenditure for the year, moves from 13.0 to 0 between 2015 and 2035. This ratio can be interpreted as the number of years during which annual expenditure can be paid by the reserve if there is no contribution, no investment income, and no other income. Right? So basically what this is trying to say is that if changes are not made to the NIS, by the year 2035, we would have gone through the reserve and bringing it to 0, right? Now, we have to remember that the NIS is basically one big pool of money, right? Where, how do they say? It's a cycle, basically. The young pay for the old until they get old, and then the younger pay for them.
Well, it's a cycle where working people at any one time is who sustains the fund to give benefits to those who have completed their working cycle. And so from what you've said, the 11th actuarial report, the law dictates that every 3 years, so it means that 2016, we should be receiving another actuarial report pretty soon. I don't know if it was done already, because 16 and 3 is 19. We've gone past the 2019. So maybe it may come into effect, or they may start the review this 2020, because 3 years would have elapsed. What the report is showing is that at the present rate of contribution, because that is what brings the income, the contributions. Now, that contribution that we pay and our employers pay on our behalf is subdivided into paying out some of the benefits. And it, as you rightly said before, it's not just old age pension, it's not just retirement pension. There are 16 other benefits that are being paid, and which we will discuss in greater length over time. Yes? And then you have staff, you have maintenance of building, you have equipment. So sometimes you hear people who probably not knowing better talk about, I've paid X amount of money to the NIS, what they're doing with my money. But to keep the program going, you know, it's a social security fund. It's to keep you secure, to ensure that you as an individual and all others who have contributed and make the required amount of contribution to receive a pension, to ensure that they get a pension for life.
Yeah.
And sometimes, after retirement, many of us may leave for much more years than we would have worked for.
Yeah.
So we may work 20 years sometimes and contribute to the NS, but we may receive pension for 35 years.
35 years.
Yeah, or 40 in some instances, depending on when you start working and you start paying and all of those things. So, getting to what the report is saying is that, look, at the present rate, which is 9% overall, 5% by the employer, 4% by the employee, if it continues that way, by the year 2022, that contributions that we're making would no longer be sufficient to sustain the NS,
Right.
to pay off the pension, to pay all the benefits, the other benefits that they pay, maternity, sickness, invalidity, whatever they are, right? And maintain the NS to run. But it goes further on to say that they predict by 2035 the NS would run broke. So as opposed to what some people were saying before, oh, well, the government take the NS money. Absolute nonsense. No truth in that. There's no way the report said that. The NS employers, the chairman, the manager would tell you it has nothing to do with government taking any money from NS. The reality that hits us and faces us is that the fund will no longer be able to sustain itself in terms of its payment. The income will be insufficient. So
Absolutely.
the NS had to take a decision. And that decision is that if by 2020 there is a 2% increase in contribution, one by the employer, one by the employee, and it is something that had to be discussed and was discussed, and employers had to come on board and people had to know and understand, but there are still some of us who don't understand, and there are some of us who understand, but just for the purposes of mischief, we want to make it look, because I've heard some people say, oh, well, it's a new tax.
Yeah.
The government is playing smart, they're bringing in a new tax. That has nothing to do with taxation, of course. So the issue here is, if the NS doesn't do that, it says in the report that down the line, by 2025, we may eventually have to contribute 22.5%.
Yep.
So we're moving from 9 to 11 now. And that will cushion the effect of what would happen.
Yeah.
But if we do not take, if the NS doesn't take any step now, it means that what is being asked as contribution for 2020 would increase 100%.
Yeah.
After 2015.
After 2015.
Right? So as sometimes our four parents say, a stitch in time saves 9. And maybe that stitch should have happened before.
Yeah.
So maybe 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, a 1% or a 0.5% increase would have topped us up a little bit. 2 years or 3 years down the line, another 0.5, until we get to 11 or 12%. And I mean, the comparison could be made with many of the other islands,
of course,
neighboring Grenada, that they have all. I think the only island close to us that has not yet gone past 10 or 11% in terms of contribution to the NS was the BVI. That was 8.5.
Yeah.
But they are looking into increase. The places like Barbados, they're almost 21%. St. Lucia, Dominica, and I don't want to quote because I don't have the figures before me. Some of them are 15, some of them are 17, some are 13.5. So we're still ranking as the second lowest in terms of our contribution. But we must say hats off to the board, the management, the staff of the NIS. While we sometimes sit, wherever we are, without a lot of information and knowledge and think that they're not doing a good job, when you find out what they're doing, you'd realize, in fact, they have been hailed. The NIS in Grenada has been hailed as the best run
social
security scheme in the region.
Yeah.
The best run. I mean, they get kudos from that, not from me, but from regional and international institutions. So it speaks volume. And I think we are just appealing to people. Before we go out and criticize and quarrel and, say some of those things that are not too nice, we should seek more information. We should seek to understand better. And we should get to realize that what is happening is not really the NS trying to squeeze us or take away more money from us, but to protect us. So down the line, we turn 60, because even that also is a concern. The age of retirement, which is 60 years, if it is pushed back a little bit to 65, thereabout, and I think there is a plan, I don't know how soon it will be introduced, that they're going to try to move it from 60 to 65 over a 13-year period.
Yeah, well, it's actually a gradual increase.
Yes, gradual.
From 60 to 65.
Yes.
And I'll give you the years in which they plan, or the proposed schedule. Because
Right,
they do have a proposed schedule in which they plan to increase it. So from 2019 to 2021, it will remain 60.
60.
From 2022, though, to 2024, it will be raised, or it's proposed that it will be raised to 61. From 2025 to 2027, they're looking at 62. 2028 to 2029, 63. 2030 to 2031, 64. And 2032 onward, 65. Right, so that's a 13-year period of the gradual increase.
Right.
In the NIS. And I mean, we can give basically a rundown. So basically, if you were born in 1961 and before, your pensionable age would be 60. 1962 to 1963, pensionable age would be 61. 1964 to 1965, pensionable age 62. And this is information that is readily available on the NIS website. Like they've always said, they are an open book. You need information, you can call, or the information is on their website. And as you were saying before, we sometimes take for granted the fact that, and NIS has said it, in 3 years of our retirement, I retire at 60. By the time I reach 63, I would have gone through all of the funds that I would have put into the NIS, but I lived till 70, 75, 80, and now the NIS must find these monies to continue paying me my pension. And I think that's what a lot of people take for granted. They figure, okay, well, we're putting some money into the NIS and I expect them to pay me until I die, and I live till 90 and NIS continues to pay me till 90, but at 63 I would have already consumed all of the funds that I would have put into the NIS. And I can give you a rundown, I made it my duty to find this information out because, people work with more in-your-face information. So let's take, for example, I have a salary of $1,500, right? At 4%, which was my old rate, I would have been paying $60 towards the NIS, right? Monthly. My employer would have been paying $75 at 5%, right? With the new rate, I will now be paying $75 at 5%, and my employer will be paying $90 at 6%. Let's take it up further. I'm working for $2,500, for example. My old rate would have been $100 a month. My new rate, I'm now paying $125 a month, and my employer $150. And it goes on and on. If I'm working for $5,000 a month, my old rate would have been $200. My new rate is now $250, and my employer will be contributing $300. So it's just a rundown to show you, okay, this is what it amounts to in dollars and cents, and not really percentages. Because a lot of people don't understand percentages. But this is just for pension. Let's talk about the many other benefits that the NIS has. So we have the maturity benefit, or the sickness benefit, which I think everybody commonly knows. You get sick and they give you a percentage of your salary. I I wonder if I found out what that percentage is.
I think it's 65% if my memory serves me right.
65% of your weekly salary.
Well, whatever. Whether
right?
you work weekly, monthly, 65% of that is what the NIS will pay you, and your employer would pay the other 35%.
Would pay the other 35.
Yes.
And then there's the maternity benefit. Now, most of these benefits that they have are broken down into different categories. So it's not just cut and paste. I have a baby and NIS has to pay me. No. If you work for, there's maternity allowance. Let's take it down then. We have a 12-week payment for an employed contributor of 65%, right, of their weekly salary. And, of course, the employer would
top up the
other 35. Now, if you are unemployed at the time of your delivery, but you have made at least 50 contributions towards the NIS, you get something called a maternity grant, which is actually a lump sum of $532, right? After, giving birth and applying for it, of course. Now, if you as the mother does not qualify, but the father of the child or the husband has qualified with his 50 contributions, he can then claim
the grant.
That grant of $532. You see? So a lot of people don't know this. And then we have the funeral grant.
But before you go to the funeral grant, let me just kind of put into words here, because people may hear that and still don't understand it. Now, there is maternity benefit, and then there is maternity grant.
Well, allowance and grant.
Allowance and grant, right? Now, your maternity allowance would be for an employed individual paying and contributing to the NIS,
right,
ready to give birth. They can be off the job for 12 weeks.
Right.
Right? And the NIS is going to pay you 65% of what you would have earned on the job over that 12 weeks period. So that's your maternity period, right? That's someone who is working and contributing. You get 12 weeks, 65%. Your employer pays the other 35%.
Right.
Right? So if your salary was $100 for ease of reference, NIS will give you $65. Your employer need to give you the 35 to bring you up to your full.
To your full 100.
Your full 100. Now, if you are unemployed at the time of giving birth, you're not employed with anybody, but would have contributed to the NIS no less than 50 contributions. So it's 50 and upwards, right? If it's less than 50, you don't qualify. But once you would have made at least 50 contributions to the NIS and you're not working now and you're giving birth, they give you a grant. So it's a fixed amount you can apply for, and you'll get that $500 and a couple dollars, and that's it. Because you're not contributing now, you're not employed, so you're not paying any NIS. That grant is only for persons who are unemployed at the time of giving birth, but must have contributed at least 50 contributions to the NIS. So you should have worked for at least 1 year straight and paid your contribution, because the contribution is counted weekly. You would have at least made 50 contributions.
Yes.
Right? Now, if you are not qualified, so for example, you're not working, but you only made 48 or 45 contributions, you're not qualified to receive. But the father of the child, who must be your husband, so if some fellas out there listening and feel I'm the father of the child, so I could claim because I make my 50 contribution. You have to be married. So no man just walking in and say, well, don't come having a baby, that's my child, and she ain't qualified, so we don't get a grant because I qualify. You have to be married. That's a qualifying factor as well. So it's not just the 50 contribution for the father to make the claim, but there must be some union that is recognized.
Right.
So that you can make the contribution. So the father can claim, but you have to, be able to prove that there is that union that child is coming. The mother can claim if not working to get the grant, or if employed can get the allowance for 12 weeks. Yes? So I hope that clears it up a little bit. So, Duncan, you can move on to some of the other benefits.
All right. So we have the funeral grant, right? The funeral grant for the insured, where the family can claim and they will receive a total of $2,320.
Right. And just qualify that again by saying, when we say they can receive, they are qualified to receive, but generally the check doesn't go to the family, it goes to the undertaker.
To the undertaker.
Because sometimes people misinterpret what we say. But they say I won't get the money and I can't get. Now you can apply, and once you are qualified, a maximum amount of $2,300 will be paid to whoever your undertaker is, not to you directly. Say, I have money in your pocket to go and fetch your boy. I say, boy, I get money there. My father there, let's give me that. No. It's a funeral grant, so it goes directly to the undertaker. So it will reduce the amount of out-of-pocket you have to now pay to the undertaker.
And then you have the spouse. Now, I do not believe that they all can claim at the same time. The spouse of the deceased, they can claim, and they will receive $1,700. Of course, as you said, the check doesn't go to the spouse, but to help with the funeral arrangements for the deceased.
And I think in that instance is, if the deceased is not qualified for you to claim on their behalf, but the spouse is qualified, that spouse can claim and get almost half of what the deceased individual would have gotten if they were qualified under the NIS. Because you have some people, despite all of the appeals that are being made, they just don't pay. Especially self-employed people.
Absolutely.
So sometimes they passed on, unfortunately, and no claim could be made because they have never paid the NIS, or if ever they have paid, not sufficient to qualify them for the benefit. So now the spouse can make a claim on the behalf if that spouse has been paying and is qualified. Yes? So the deceased you cannot claim on behalf of the deceased and the spouse claim at the same time. It's one or the other. If one
or the other.
Yeah.
Right? And then there's the dependent parent and children. Of course, if the parent, if you've been living at home with your parents, taking care of them, and your children, of course, and they have been, of course, disposed as a result of your death, then they can claim, and of course a contribution of $870 will be made towards your funeral. Now I see the lines are ringing. We're not going to take calls just yet. We really want you to just listen, write down your questions and so on, and then we'll take them in a bit.
Who answering these questions? You?
No, you.
You behave as though you're a qualified NIS employee.
We'll answer what we can.
All right.
And of course, so that covers your short-term benefits, right? Now we move on to long-term benefits, which is what people are really interested in, what people really think NIS is all about. And that has to do with your age pension. Right? Now, we all know that our age pension is 500 contributions. And you know, Mr. Bola, I called the other day and I almost had my 500 contribution.
Yeah, well, you better don't get sick and leave work now.
I will, proud of myself.
Because if you reach 499, you still wouldn't get a pension. You must make 500. And people, you know, you can always call the NIS and find out where you are with your contributions, how much you have made thus far. I know that I have made my 500 already. I'm an old man now. I've been working a long time and I've always been contributing to the NIS. And it's interesting to know that after 500 contributions, you are qualified to get a pension until death.
Yeah.
You are qualified to get a pension when you are retired until death.
But it gets better, you know.
I know.
Because after I'm almost finished, let's say by the end of the year, my 500 contributions will be made, right? And this is not hypothetically speaking. After that, every contribution I make, every 50 contributions I make, I get 1%.
Because at 500 contribution, what it qualifies you for is a pension of 30%. So whatever your salary would have been, when you make your 500 contribution, you are qualified to get 35% of that as a pension. So bam, 500, you were making $1,000 a month, and you reach 500, and you reach 60, and you say you retire. That allows you $350. 300. It's not
300,
35. It's
30.
30. I'm calculating at 35. So it's $300 a month on a salary of $1,000, having paid your NIS and make your 500 contribution.
Right.
But if you are not yet 60 and you do not retire after 500, every 50 contribution you make thereafter gives you a 1% increase. So let's say you are 50 years when you make your 500 contribution. And you continue to work until you're 60. So that's 10 more years. It means that you do an average of 50 contribution a year for 10 years. It means that's 10% more you will get.
Yeah.
So you will your pension immediately moves from 30% to 40%. Yes? Of the salary. So instead of you getting 300, if you would have retired after 500 contribution, you're now getting 400. And it goes up. So the more, but up to a maximum of 60%.
Right, and for the person that was making that $1,000 a month would have probably contributed about $50 a month towards the NIS. Now imagine that you've contributed $50 a month,
and even if you add what your employer contributed as well,
you still haven't made the $300 that
because
you are
contributing then was 9%, and now you're going to contribute 11%.
11
overall, 11% overall. Employer and employee together. But you are guaranteed at least 30% once you make your 500 contribution. And you continue making, it goes up by 8% after every 50 contribution. There are people who are making 50% of the. So if a guy is using the same $1,000 and he has contributed sufficiently, he can get $500 more. And then sometimes, without the understanding, you hear people saying, "But that NIS people are the stiff so much." Sorry to use that kind of language, but that's the talk on the ground. Because me and the man, we work same place, We work in the same place. Look, he gained $500 from NIS and he only paid me $3. But what you did not realize is that before he started working where you are working, he was working elsewhere and he was contributing. So he made his 500 contribution long before you did and continued to make contribution. And both of you retired at 60, but because he has paid much longer, he has more contributions inside than you have.
Of course.
So he's getting a higher percentage. But these are things that the NIS will tell you if you call them. And
if you call them. And of course, there's a formula for your pension, because nothing goes right without a formula. And the formula is basically the best 5 years of your working career times, of course, the percentage. So whether it's at 30% or 40%, I believe the maximum is 60%. But your percentage divided by 52 weeks, because we know that the contribution is based weekly, right? So that's the formula. But apart from the age pension, there's an age grant, that a lot of people don't know about. The age grant is basically the amount of money that you would have placed into the NIS with an interest that you would receive back. So you haven't made your 500 contributions. A lot of people sit down and say, well, I didn't make 500 contributions, NIS just take all my money. No. You now qualify for something called an age grant, where you are now able to go into the NIS and say to them, well, I haven't made my 500 contributions. What can I get back? Right? And I believe that you get back the amount of money that you would have placed into NIS with interest.
Well, I think it's more than going in, The NIS is so well up to date that they will inform you.
Yes.
When you turn 60 or when you turn retirement, stating now that the age is still 60, as it increases when you get to 61 or 62, when that time comes. The NIS normally, because remember, when you register as a contributor, they take your date of birth and all of those. So they are updated. The system will inform them, Duncan is now 60. And they normally call you. They normally get in touch with you and say, look, you must come in with all of your documentation so they can do verification, bring in your card so that they can check your number and make sure that that's the same individual, check your name, your birth certificate, whatever else they do for verification purposes. So when you do not make the 500 contributions that will qualify you for a pension for life, you get that grant. which we believe, and we have to verify that to be
Yeah.
absolutely certain. But I know there is a grant. Well, we believe the grant is the sum of what you would have paid.
Yeah.
Right? Over the years, not making 500, but 450, they give that back to you with an increase for the time you have paid it. So there's always benefit. Even when you are not qualified for the pension, you get what is called a lump sum, a repayment of what you put in. But you need to try to make 500 and more, because then you can be guaranteed, because of the increase of 2% now, and probably there may be future increase, I don't know, that will guarantee you a pension for life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, there's also, okay, here it is. The age grant, right? It's paid to an insured person who has at least 50, but less than 499 contribution weeks, right? Paid into the insurance scheme. And they are over the age of 60. Now, it is paid at 5 times the average weekly insurable earnings for every 50 contributions, right? And that's a lump sum payment. So there is a formula, right? It's 5 times the average weekly insurable earnings for every 50 contribution, right? And that's paid as a lump sum, you know? So there's so much that people need to know about the NIS. It's not just cut and paste, as we say it.
Not
you
just
know?
pension. Yeah.
It's not just that. And then under that, under the long-term benefits, we have the invalidity benefit, right? Which is basically you're no longer able to work due to a medical issue, right? There's the pension and there's the grant. To qualify for the pension, you, of course, must have at least paid 150 contribution weeks and be under the age of 60, right? And this is a monthly payment as long as the invalidity lasts. Okay? And also under that, I believe, oh no, that is for the, see, so many benefits, you could get them mixed up. And for the grant, right, if you are an insured person, of course, and you must be insured for at least 50, but less than 150 contributions paid, and you're under the age of 60, then you get a lump sum payment, right, that is paid 5 times the average weekly insurable earnings for every contribution. All right? Now, a lot of people probably wouldn't understand what that means. And we can't tell you based on, because everybody's salary is different. But what we can advise, and I've done it before for myself, I've done it before, you know, it's easy to just call the NIS. Give them your NIS number and let them explain it to you. Go into the office, speak with one of the customer service representatives, see what options there are available for you, you know? And the invalidity pension is paid at an annual rate of 30%. All right? So it's paid on the annual rate of 30%. And of course, we know that the that is of the person's annual insurable earnings during the best 4 years or the best 5 years of the entire working period of that person's life. So they ain't picking your 4 lowest salary or your 4 worst working years. They're looking for the best working years. And that is what they're putting it against.
But there's an interesting terminology being used consistently in all of what NIS says. Yeah? Whatever the benefit, they talk about of your insurable earnings. Mm-hmm. And that is interesting, and I think it needs further explanation so that our listening public can understand. Now, the NIS charges, well, not charges, but you contribute to the NIS on salaries to a maximum of $5,000.
Yes.
Now, if you are very fortunate, and there are not a lot of people who are that fortunate, I certainly isn't that fortunate to be making more than $5,000 per month or as your salary. The NIS allows you to pay contributions to a maximum of 5,000. I don't know if that would change. That's why they call it your insurable earnings.
Yeah.
So when we talk about 30% of your salary, it's your insurable amount. So for those who are out there that are making way over that, those of you who are in the high figures of $8,000 and $9,000 and $10,000, that 30% after your 500 contributions for pension would be on the insurable amount. So it's not 30% of 8,000 or 9,000 or 10,000. It's 30% of 5,000, the maximum.
The maximum.
Right?
Yeah.
Your insurable earnings. By the way, if 3,000 is what you're making, you wouldn't get it off the maximum. You would get it off 3,000. Or as they say in the law, your best, the average of the best 4 years. So people change jobs. So you may be in a job now that is paying you 4,000 or 5,000, and for some reason that company goes under, you got fired, you left for whatever reason, and you got a job that is then paying you a lower salary. What the NIS does is look at the 4 best years that you were employed, and the average, that's what you would get your pension on. Yes? Insurable. Keep that word in mind, your insurable amount.
Absolutely.
What you were paying your contributions on. You were making contributions on. Not necessarily what your final salary was, but it is the amount that you were paying your contribution on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? And that is for our invalidity benefit. Now, there's another one under long term. See, I told you guys, it's so many. There is the survivor's benefit. So, you've passed before your time to receive pension. Your spouse, being under the age of 50, will receive for 1 year 75% of your pension for 1 year. However, if your spouse is above the age of 50, they will receive that for life. But of course, it can be discontinued if that spouse is either remarried or has cohabitated with somebody else. Or, they get into a relationship, a common law union, or they actually remarry, then they would, of course, discontinue payment to that spouse. Right? The child, which is of school age, the age of 16, will receive 25% of that pension. If they choose to continue their education onwards from 16 without stopping, they go to university, college, whatever, they will continue to receive until they have completed their studies. And of course, dependent parents, which we mentioned before. If you have a mother or father that you have been taking care of, then they have been displaced, then of course they would receive, or they're entitled to 25% of your pension. And that is survivor's benefit. That's also under the long-term benefits. And then the one that a lot of people like, I don't understand why, is the employment injury benefit. You can claim from the first day you stop working. Right? So you get on the job, you get an injury, you stop working, you can claim. Right? And they will pay 70% of your insurable earnings as long as you are claiming. 70% of your insurable earnings as long as you're paying. And on top of that, if you incur medical expenses for life, so you have medication to buy and tests to take and so on, they will cover 100% of that for life. The NIS. In order to qualify, you just have to be registered and, of course, before the incident occurs. And, of course, the proper route needs to be taken. I know we don't like process, but, of course, they have to do the proper investigation because, this is big. They're paying for all of your medical expenses for life, 100%. So they need to make sure that the injury that was incurred as a result of something that happened on the job or not something that was long-standing.
Job-related injury.
Exactly.
If the injury is not job-related and they can prove that, then you do not qualify to
then
get
you do
any.
not qualify. And as we're on the last one, we're going to say that the lines are open now. The number to call is 440-7377 for local calls. 440-7377 if you have a question that you want to ask via WhatsApp. And, of course, 347-329-3101 for those of you in the diaspora who wish to call in and ask a question. And to those of you on the live, you can definitely ask your questions there as long as we have the answer. We can answer it. But even if we don't, we'll take your question and we'll find out for you. Don't worry. All right? But we're on the last one, which is the disablement. There is a disablement benefit, all right? So you've lost a percentage of your faculties due to an employment injury. If the injury is 0 to 29%, right? Or if the disablement is, or the faculties lost is 0 to 29%, then you get a grant. If the faculties is 30%, 30% and over, then you get a pension. And if it's 100%, you get constant assistance plus a pension plus 50%.
It's a little complicated.
That one is a little complicated, you know. But it's there's so many benefits. And I asked the question when I spoke to the representative. I asked, because a lot of people believe that. So I'm not going to take a sick leave because if I take a sick leave, it's going to take out of the pension that I'm supposed to get when I retire. And that's not true. You know, like they said, it's a large pool of money that is meant to meet the needs, you know, of the insured. So you take a sick leave and you're on sick leave for 2 months. It doesn't come out from the amount of money you're supposed to get when you're at a pensionable age. You know, you don't get 2 months less when you go on pension. You know, so there are a lot of aspects of the NIS that people don't understand. So when I hear people talking about, give us our 6% and give us our 5% and let us decide where we want to put it, and you know, because it's been said, or that the NIS is stealing our money, we don't know where our money is going, and we don't see the benefit of paying the NIS. These are the benefits.
And more.
And more.
Yeah.
You know?
Because the NS, I mean, these are all monetary contributions that they're talking about. But they will advise you, they will tell you what and how to do what, you know. So I think you have your first caller.
Absolutely. We have a first caller for the morning. Good morning, caller. Hello, caller. Good morning.
Might have lost them.
Good morning, caller.
How you doing, sir?
How are you?
Hi, good morning. We just...
Carriacou.
Yes, man. Happy New Year to you.
Same to you. So what you do for the New Year?
Just pray and thank God that He had caused me to see another year.
I bet you and make a resolution.
Not so much speak it out, but in my mind I've been thinking about a few things.
Okay.
How about you?
Well, I good. I can't complain. A lot of rain since morning, eh?
Yes, but you're doing well. I didn't think we get any rain. I didn't hear about no report of rain anyway in Grenada.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice to know that you're getting some water. It's needed in Carriacou in particular.
God, eh?
Thank God for that. Thank God for that.
Yes.
So 2020 is here and you're ready to face all of the challenges and take up all of the opportunities.
Once it come, I'm right there.
You're right there, ready. Well, it was good having you as a friend and a contributor in 2019.
Yes,
and we look forward to having you as a better friend and a greater contributor and working closer with you. I will. I does. No. I does come up every now and again, but I'll let you know. I'll tell you privately when next are coming.
I'm up in Belém, man.
Yeah, man. I'll inform you.
Yeah, no problem.
Absolutely no problem. We talking NIS today.
My phone number already?
No, we have it written down.
You have it right down?
Yeah, we have it written down somewhere. But if we can't find it, we know what to do. Shout you out on the air and tell you, give us the number again.
Well, the number is 443-7478.
Yeah, 443. Yeah. We won't forget that.
Holiday.
We go holiday.
My number home here.
Yes. Right.
Once you call that, you're getting me live in concert.
Right. I hear you.
So if you want us something today, we're good.
Well, just pass it because we want to give other people a chance to ask the question about the NS. So tell me quick.
Sharon father have a son named Dexter. What is Dexter brother name?
Dexter and a brother. Sharon father. I don't know if Sharon is a boy or a girl.
Sharon is a boy.
Okay. So Sharon.
Sharon is a boy or a girl?
Well, Sharon is the name. Sharon father.
Yes, Sharon father have a
son named Dexter.
What is Sharon brother name?
Oh, why Sharon brother name Dexter?
Yeah, Dexter.
Yes.
There you go. There you go.
You're good, but I go walk you out anyway. I figure we have a next call coming in, so.
Do what you got to do when you got to do what you got to do. But
certainly.
I will be listening.
All right, take good care.
I will do that, my brother.
And give our regards to the family and friends.
I will do that.
Nice.
All right. Oh, and there we go. We have another. There's been an overseas call that's been coming in for the longest while. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Brother Bola. Happy New Year.
Thank you, and many happy returns.
In the studio, my brother Sheldon Scott and Nazim and others.
Yes.
Yeah, Sister Duncan, I was listening to you there about the NS, and what concerned me is about the one about the spouse and the death. Because in Canada here, if your spouse die, yes, you continue getting something from the government. But you said something that if they, unless they're married in Canada here, unless you go and marry again, you lost everything.
Right.
But you were saying in Grenada, if you're just living with someone that you lost that benefit?
Yeah, if you cohabitate. So
okay. Because I was
there
saying, how will we know if you're living with someone that's not a wife or what? Unless you have something down there as a common law wife.
Yes, there are common law unions here.
Okay. They are common law wives. So then how many years you could be living with that person to become a common law husband or wife?
I'm not 100% sure of the amount of years, but I can definitely find out. That's
Well, I would like you to find out that so then the people of Grenada could know that, because a lot of people might get saying, well, how could I go and ask for something and you tell me, well, I'm living with somebody else?
Right.
Yeah, so maybe you guys could get somebody from the NIS to explain that. Because in Canada here, you could live with somebody else and you still get your... Once you're married, you lost everything.
Right.
Yeah, but a common law, no. Now that's not the way you work out here. But I understand in Grenada, but you guys have to, get somebody from inside it to explain it or call in and explain it.
Absolutely.
So the Grenadian people could get a better
Absolutely.
idea about what's going on.
Well, we're hoping because we still have some time before, the first payment is made. But we just want people to really understand what the benefits available to them are from the NIS, because there's a lot of misconception.
Right. So that's nice. I like I like the conversation.
Well,
so you guys have a good and bright first day at work for the new year.
We appreciate that, and we wish you and your family and friends all the best for 2020. Thank you for being with us in 2019.
And I must say hi to my brother in Ghana, Mr. Peters.
Mr. Peters, your brother.
Good morning, Melo Peters, and good morning to my mom in Dabo and brothers and sisters, everybody.
Yeah.
Great.
So everybody have a good day, and Prime Minister, stay strong, do what is right for the people.
Yep.
And you will go further until God say your time is past.
Thank
have
you.
a good one, everybody.
Thank you for your contribution. You have a blessed one yourself. Nice.
Okay, brother.
Yeah. So we may not have all of the information as it relates to the NIS, and not only that, everybody's situation is different. Every situation is peculiar. So we may give general information, but the information that you have is very specific or very peculiar. And at the NIS, they will be able to tell you better what options are available to you, which is why we always appeal to people. It's basically like, know your status, know your status, know what's going on with you as it relates to your national insurance, because, there are a lot of people who for lack of information, may have just said, well, I reached 500 contributions, I had nothing to get. You know? We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, Mr. Bola.
Good morning to you, son. Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, same to you. You know who talking, eh?
Of course, man. That voice cannot be missed.
I want to ask a question and find out something.
Yes, go ahead. Let's see if we can answer you.
What we gain the increase in NIS this month?
I'm not sure. That one we'd have to find out for you. I don't want to tell you yes or no. But you mean as the increase that government is giving to salaries?
Yes, sir.
No, I don't think that comes on NIS, you know. If you are getting a pension from government,
I don't get pension from government.
Right. If you were getting a pension from government, then you would get the increase
but
there.
That is the thing I want to know with me about getting a pension from government. I'm supposed to get a pension from government.
Yeah, well, we had discussed that already before, and I know that we had passed your information on because you said the areas you worked with, and it went through the Ministry of Works.
Yeah.
I don't know where they are with that information now. But I don't believe that the increase in salary affects NIS. What it affects is people who are getting a pension from government, they also get the increase. The pensioners who are receiving a government pension. The public servants.
Yeah, retired public servants.
Yes.
And I heard NIS say they putting up and what they're giving us a month?
Well, I know that is part of the actuary report, but I have not heard or seen the announcement where they talk about the adjustment yet. But I know it's something in the making. Yeah. So I don't want to tell you.
Yes. Not me alone not talking about that. A lot of people talking about it. What they're giving us, they don't know.
Yeah, so they have to. We have to get the NIS, and we are attempting to get someone from the NIS to probably either call in or come in studio and give some further explanation. Because, like we say, we are not experts of the NIS, but we look up and we get information and we're trying to share it to make people a little bit more knowledgeable. But as soon as we can get someone from the NIS, so you can call them direct, they normally would answer the questions that people have.
What, Mr. Bola?
Yes, sir.
You was listening when the Prime Minister was on the air before the Christmas?
Yes, sir, I was.
Well, you heard me?
I heard you very clear.
What I want you to do for me.
Yes.
Encourage him because he make a pledge.
The day of prayer. National Day of Prayer.
No, not only that.
Yeah.
You heard what I tell him about what I'm supposed to get and all them type of things?
Yeah, I heard you. I was listening.
And he say for the new year, thing going to work out.
Yes.
So I want you encourage him.
I will.
Want you encourage him because at the home here, I ain't getting nothing to do and nothing going on.
Yes.
So if I get what I had to get for this year, I go feel good about that.
All right. So we'll look into that for you.
So
we'll
the
pass
new year
information.
shaping good by you?
So far, so good. I have health, and I thank God for that.
Health and strength.
Yes.
But I have an uncle here that give me a problem.
Give it a little seawater and thing, and you know.
I'm rubbing it with a little soft candle too.
Right. Yes. Take care of it.
So all the best for the time being, and don't forget to show them a little talk and thing.
No. We won't forget that. Yes, and you have yourself a wonderful day and a happy and prosperous 2020. Go good. Nice.
Yeah. So we're trying to give as much information, and we would love if we could get someone from the NIS to come in studio and sit and take your calls, but we know how that has worked out in the past.
Yeah.
You know, and it's sad that you have to thread so carefully with public information and, you know, on what forums you choose or fora you choose to disseminate it on. But we're hoping that it's possible that we can get someone from the NIS to come and really answer the questions of the people, you know, because not everybody's going to have an opportunity to call into NIS to ask a question, but they may just be listening at that particular time and have a question that they need answered, which may also answer the questions that many have. You know, so it's very important. Remember, the lines are open, and you're free to give us a call at 440-7377 for local calls, 440-7377 if you have a question on WhatsApp, and of course 347-329-3101 if you are overseas and you have a question that you'd like to ask. I did hear about the National Day of Prayer, well, not National Day of Prayer, but the Day of Prayer or Hour of Prayer for
schools for today.
And I honestly was very happy, very pleased with that gesture. And of course, you would hope that something like that wouldn't get backlash. Unfortunately, it got a lot of backlash. Because as Grenadians, again, we don't read and listen to understand. We read and listen to respond. So basically what the minister was saying is that we want a general hour just dedicated to praise and worship and prayer within our schools for our children. It's not the usual assembly that we have every morning where the children go in from 8:30 and at 9 o'clock they go to their classes. No. The first day of school, we're going to open the school year with a general hour of prayer for our students. And I thought that was a wonderful gesture. What a way to kick off the school term.
The new school term and the new year.
Absolutely. I couldn't think of a better way to open a school day. You know, teach your children to pray, to worship, to just be in the presence, to invite the presence of the Lord into the classroom, into the school. And you have so many voices of so many innocent children, you know, crying out to God and reaching out to God. And I mean, it really was a wonderful gesture. But of course, you know, a lot of people came down on the fact that what the minister was trying to say, not understanding. And she's not saying it's not something that happens every day or that the children don't pray every day, but it's the purpose and the way in which it's being done. All voices all at once, praying for a common cause, you know? And I think that was very important. It's something that we need to have, whether it's once every well, at the beginning of every semester, every term, they should do that, you know, because we do have a lot of families and children out there really struggling, you know, and you don't know how many lives that little gesture will touch, you know. So if they could have it more than once a term, that would be encouraged as well, you know.
Well, you would like to encourage that.
I would definitely
Not
encourage
everybody
that.
Who wants that, because there's some people who do not believe in prayers. There's some people who don't pray at all. There's some people, of course, we can argue whether they're right or wrong, but I think at the end of the day it's a personal preference. They decide what they want to be, and we need to respect. We don't have to accept,
but we respect.
But we need to respect
Absolutely.
people's views on different issues. I would not accept someone arguing with me, or I wouldn't even argue with someone to tell me that I shouldn't pray. I definitely respect your views if you say you don't pray or you don't believe in prayers. But you know, if that's what the ministry decides, and in collaboration with the principals and teachers, and there are a lot of denominational schools that I remember. The secondary school I went to was a denominational school. It was a Seventh-day Adventist school, and I was just over the weekend saying to my wife that I recalled in every term, every school term, there was, I think, 2 weeks within the term when we had to, because the church wasn't very far away from the school, where we had to go to the school for 1 hour per day for, I think, 2 weeks for worship and prayer. You know?
Yeah.
But that's it.
We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
And Happy New Year to both of you guys here.
Thank you.
Nazim as well.
And many happy returns to you.
Listening to even in the national report regarding prayers, Mr. Bold, I'm a little disappointed that in the sense that when, you know, I think that it says that because of the behavior of the kids, you know, it should not be just the behavior of the kids. Prayer should be said and done at all the time. Yeah?
Yes.
When you sleep, when you wake, the discipline of the child is not when you crash into something bad into your life and then you run to the Almighty Creator. That is not, should not, never be the case. So if this is what we are teaching our children, that is even wrong.
Well,
it should not only be for one day. It should be in the morning. It should be in the afternoon. Like Mr. Bowler said, I myself attended a 7-day Adventist school, and it was like that. When you come into your school, you have prayers. When you leave in your school, you have prayers. Whatever, you have to know. And if you don't teach your children that from now on the long run, you're going to be problems.
Well, accepted it, but there is prayers in school. Most schools do it every day. I think what the minister was just asking is that as a new school term, a new year, that they dedicate an hour.
Oh, okay.
Right? Okay. To just do it for today. But every day there's assembly, there's class assembly, there's national, the school, I think every Monday or so, most schools do all of the classes, they do their assembly, but on other mornings, in the classroom itself, there's prayer, there's worship, there's singing. Most schools do it on a daily basis, but today was just a special hour they wanted to dedicate for that, for all schools across the nation.
Okay, but at least the children must let you believe that, you should pray at us all the time. That is my point I'm trying to
make. Yeah, and that point is taken too. It's necessary. Not only at school, but at home, parents, the community, everybody should encourage and get involved.
You must know how we speak in these days. The expression of some people, some children is different from us.
Yeah.
That is my take on that. So have a blessed day.
You take care now, and thank you for your contribution.
Yeah. So it's just a special hour. Prayers are done every day. My children go to the 7-day Adventist school as well, and they tell me every morning they have to reach school for a certain time because they need to go up to the church to have their assembly and their AY and whatever it is every single day.
Yep.
And even as being a teacher myself for so long, every morning, it's mandatory. You can't start a day without inviting the presence of the Lord in the classroom. I mean, but this was definitely a venture to ensure that all schools dedicate that 1 hour. I believe that hour was 9 to 10.
9 to 10.
Toward prayer. We have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Good morning.
Yes, my sister.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Miss Jacob?
Happy New Year to you, sweetheart.
Same to you.
I wish you everything for the New Year 2020. And that handsome, beautiful, well, I know how to put my brother by your side there.
I ain't by her side, I'm staying far from her. I ain't by her side at all. I'm staying far from her. Thank you so much, Sister Jacob, and happy New Year to you.
Yes.
All the best for 2020.
Happy New Year for 2020.
Yes.
We going with it.
Yes, ma'am.
In the Lord.
Yes.
We have to put the Lord on our side.
Yes, in front us, behind us, above us, around us.
Yes, and you know what I want? I want patience and self-control.
Patience and self-control.
I have to put in self-control.
Yes.
Self-control is a must. You must have that.
Yes.
Yeah.
With the Lord too.
Yes.
Well, and you know what I want to say? You see those membership cards?
Yes.
Everybody's supposed to pay their membership.
Yes.
Who can pay it in full? Who could pay it half the month? Who could pay it a month every month?
Yes.
You pay your contribution.
Your contribution, yes.
It's a must.
Yes.
You must. When Uncle Gary, I had a card for Uncle Gary. I pay right up to 2,000.
Yes.
Uncle Gary the day up to 2,000. We can't pay just so I don't pay. In my membership card, I pay all the year.
Yes.
Yes. I pay all the year. And so I'm begging those membership
to please pay.
In each constituency, we have 15 constituencies. So everybody must pay up their due. Please. Please, please, please.
Yeah.
Well, we hear your appeal, and I hope they hear you too.
Well, you and my beautiful sister, you all have a God bless day.
You too.
And keep up on your good work.
Thank you so very much. We appreciate, and you have a blessed one and a really good New Year.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay,
You're
bye-bye.
welcome. Bye-bye.
All right. And as Ms. Jacob would have said that, everybody needs to make their contribution. There are the different classes of contributors, because we have the employer, the employee, and we have voluntary. And what that really is that a voluntary contributor is basically someone who is between age 16 and 60, and while they are not employed or self-employed, wish to continue to have contributions paid on their behalf. And we'll explain that because this caller has been calling for a while. Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, Mr. Bola.
Good morning, and
hope
Happy
you all
New
can
Year.
hear my voice because the cold trying to conquer me.
Right. Well, fight it. Don't worry. Fight it. You're going to make it. You're strong enough.
Yes. Anyhow, as it relates to the NIS,
yes.
I think, well, I want to know, you said that if one hasn't paid 50 contributions, that's in a relationship, marriage, quote unquote, the spouse can, once the spouse has worked for a year,
paid at least 50 contributions.
He or she can claim for that grant.
Yeah, that's in maternity.
My question is, in which 1 year? Because when you say 1 year, it opens to any blanket year.
No. Okay, let me see if I can explain quickly for you. What it is that to get that grant, they're saying if a woman is going to give birth, right? And she's not employed at the time when that is happening, she can claim a grant if she would have made at least 50 contributions to the NS already.
Which amounts to a year.
Which amounts to about 1 year of work. That's what I was saying. If you work for 1 year, right?
All right. But 1 year from when?
It doesn't matter when it starts, at least because any 12 months, because every contribution is calculated by a week. Every week that you pay for, so even when you pay monthly, the monthly payment is considered to be 4 contributions. Because the contributions is calculated by the weeks. So because you have 52 weeks in a year, I'm just simply saying, if you make 1 year, so you could work 6 months now and 6 months some other time, and you paid your NIS, you would at least make 50 contributions.
Yeah.
All right, because the reason why I ask is because if you get injured, you've been working before and paying NIS, but then you're not working maybe for a little while, 2 months, 3 months, I don't know, and then you get injured. Then NIS would not pay you any benefit if you get injured while you're out of a job.
Yeah, well, the employment injury or the injury benefit comes for someone who is employed
and got injured on the
job. That is what the benefit is for. Now, if you are employed and you get injured while being employed, then of course you are covered, right? But if you are not employed, that means no employment injury benefit is being paid for you. Then of course you do not qualify.
All right. Now I have one more question to ask, and then I'll leave because I pull over on the side on the highway. Just
right. Well, you're doing the correct thing.
how would all that relate to what we're supposed to have in Grenada coming very soon, the national insurance? I would listen while I'm driving.
Or the national health insurance. Would that
be something different from the national insurance?
Yes, the national health
we're not hearing
insurance.
About it.
The national health insurance is definitely different from the national insurance scheme. Now, hopefully, it will be managed by the same scheme, but it's different. It's like insurance that you have, whether it be a special payment and government will put in whatever they put into it, to ensure that every single Grenadian can benefit with adequate health care. I don't want to say maximum, I just want to use the word adequate because my understanding from all of the consultations that have been held, and there's a company from out of the U.S., which is owned and operated by a Grenadian that is presently working in Grenada, doing some preparation work, doing consultation, speaking with doctors, with people in the health practitioners, and so as to how they would roll off this thing, and we haven't had a date fixed when it will be rolled off, but I presume it will be sooner than later, because what we have found out is that to get adequate health care, there must be funding. Yeah. And that is what really is the crux of the matter. Because with sufficient funding, you will be able to attract any specialist you want, whether it's a heart, a bone, a ear, nose, and throat, whatever, internal specialist. Some of what we are lacking, some of the equipment, some of the personnel in Grenada is due to the fact that there is not sufficient funding to attract these people, to pay them. Yeah. Whether you have them permanently on staff or they do monthly visits or quarterly visits, whatever the case is. But what I think we're aiming to do is to have adequate material, adequate machinery, and adequate personnel to deal with the health issues. And that is only one part of it. The other part is that we want to work on and do what is called a lot of preventative health. Because for some people, proper health care is a nice hospital with plenty beds. Yep. Right? We believe a combination, not a very big hospital with a lot of beds, but with sufficient beds for our sickly or chronically ill, but also for the healthy ones, how can we prevent them from getting sick, from developing chronic issues, lifestyle disease, so a lot of the hypertension and diabetes and overweight, all of those things are what are referred to as lifestyle. So if we can get people to understand that changing their lifestyle, eating differently, eating better, eating the right kinds of food, doing exercise, drinking sufficient water and all of that. So the NHI, the National Health Insurance, is going to in some way ensure that adequate funding becomes available for educational purposes. So you can go into the schools, you can go into the workplaces where you can have seminars where people can better understand how to take care of their health. It will have sufficient funding to ensure that for those who are chronically ill and goes to the hospital, that they can get the best practitioners to take care of them, that medication can always be available, and all of those stuff. So it's a lot of things combined. Yeah. It will be managed hopefully by the NIS, but it's different to NIS. NIS is your contribution for your pension and your other benefits that are available under the NIS. The NHI now will be strictly health at different levels, preventative, primary health care, all of those different things. Yes? So they're different.
And we're hoping to have a lot of conversation in the upcoming weeks and months as it relates to the NHI. But yes, definitely different from the NIS. Now, as we were saying before the caller called, the voluntary, because a lot of people believe that they have to be actively employed in or with the NIS in order to make a contribution, and that's really not so, right? So the contribution rate, right, for a voluntary contributor is 6.75% of their total insurable earnings, right? And that is for a voluntary contributor. And the maximum earning on which the contributions are payable is, of course, $5,000 per month. Now, to be a voluntary contributor, you must satisfy some requirements. You must be an ordinary resident in Grenada, and you must not be employed by another person. All right, so you can't say, well, I'm working with John, but I ain't find my NIS gonna be enough, so I'm gonna top it up on my own as a voluntary contributor. It doesn't work like that. It's either or, right? And to register as a voluntary contributor, you just need to contact the NIS. Go in, fill out the form, and so on. And you're entitled to, of course, the benefits that are age, invalidity, survivors, and funeral benefits. All right? A person who was previously employed may apply to the NIS or the NIB, National Insurance Board, for approval to pay contributions voluntarily. for the purpose of keeping his or her contributions unbroken or enabling him to receive an NIS. So let's say you've been paying the NIS for however long, you're no longer employed, but you have not yet reached your 500 contributions and you are not yet at a retirement age, you can continue or you can apply to the National Insurance Board to become a voluntary contributor to get your contributions up to par, whether it's until you find another job or you don't plan on working again until you retire, to get your contributions up to par so you can receive a pension. And then there is the self-employed person, all right? The self-employed employed contributor is someone who is not in the employment of a registered employer, all right, but is otherwise gainfully employed. So you're a hairdresser, a barber, you have your own business, a travel agent, you're selling clothes in the market, you're selling provision in the market, you're
a fish vendor,
a fish vendor.
Or
exactly. Any of those.
A farmer, you're doing it on your own, you can go in and say, this is what I have as my salary at the end of the month, and get your card out and make your contribution so you can benefit all of the benefits that are available for any other contributor.
And of course, by law, these persons are expected to register with the NIS and to pay their contributions. All right. The self-employed person is expected to pay, I believe, 9% of their gross earnings. I'm not sure it would be 11% now, right? I wasn't too sure. And of course, self-employed persons over the age of 60 are required to pay 1% of their gross earnings for employment injury. Now, this is not only for self-employed persons. I believe for persons who are in the employ of another person who passed the age of 60 their employer is required to pay that 1% to keep them in the event that they have some injury while they're employed, they are covered by the NIS for employment injury. All right. And of course, the maximum earnings on which the contributions are payable, $5,000. And of course, they must satisfy requirements as everyone else. They must be ordinarily a resident in Grenada, gainfully occupied in employment for himself or herself in Grenada, and of course they must not be in the employment of another person. So apart from just the employer and the employee benefiting from the NIS or contributing to the NIS, you can do so voluntarily. So even the persons who they do seasonal employment, persons who do the little road work and so on, when I believe that when they're working on the road, the NIS is paid for them. But when they no longer work or when they're no longer doing a fortnight or so on, they can continue paying their NIS, continue with the contributions of 6.7, it's 7.5? Let me just verify. And I'm not sure, 7.5, and I'm not sure if that would increase along with the new increases. That is something that we definitely need to.
2020.
Yeah, that's something that we definitely need to find out. But that's important to note. So if you're working a little travel, or you're doing
they don't use that word anymore. no.
Debushing. If you're debushing.
You're a debusher.
Right. Or you're seasonally employed, whether it's in seasonal farming or seasonal tourism or whatever it may be, then you do have the option of continuing your payments while you are no longer employed or while you're on that little break. So these are all facts that you need to know.
An important point that you made in between all of these discussions, where as a voluntary contributor or someone who has been employed, for example, you've paid up to 450 contributions. And that's why it's always important, and we encourage people, communicate, contact, walk into the office, find out, bring in your NIS card, this is my number, this is my name. I'd like to know how much contributions I have made thus far, right? So you're no longer employed, you're 470 contributions. You're getting a little income from the garden, your children may be abroad, whatever. You can become a voluntary contributor and you can continue to pay and get yourself up to your 500 plus to ensure that even if the next 3 years you didn't work, and by then you would reach retirement age, you would have qualified to receive a pension.
Yeah.
You would have made the 500 coins. So the NIS is making it possible for us, wherever we are, whatever we do, in whatever sphere of life we are in, to be able to reach that pensionable amount. Yeah?
Absolutely.
But we need to go in. If you don't know, if you have been contributing and you don't know, whether it's 500 or 200, 700 or 495, we don't know.
We don't know.
We need to find out. Please, we are appealing to you. Because you know what? At the end of the day, what we hear is the blame game.
Yes.
Oh, I worked so long. I was working since 19 whenever. But have you been paying? Were your employer paying for you? Because that's another issue. Yeah. There are cases where people work, where the monies are being deducted,
and not
but
being
the
paid.
employers do not pass it on to the NIS. But you would only know that if you have been inquiring.
Yeah.
Well, when last was a payment made for me, I'm employed with X person or X company or Y. And I'm not saying that people should just purposely go and screel on the bosses or so, but you need to secure your future and yourself.
Absolutely.
And you need to know that, yes, what is being deducted from me is being paid in to the NIS so that I can get my benefit down the line. Please pick up the phone. We text, we WhatsApp, we speak all kind of things that have absolutely no concern to us about who and who was where and who do what with who. No business of ours. We ain't get nothing from that. And what is important for us, sometimes we neglect to do it. So please, we are appealing to you. It is in your best interest to pick up the phone, call the NIS. So you're into town or you're into Grenville, walk into the office. In Carriacou, walk into the office. Walk in with your card. Let them know you're there just to know your status. Where am I? Have I qualified? Did I make sufficient contributions to receive the benefits?
Can I continue?
Can I continue?
Yeah.
What is it best that I do? Now I'm not employed. Oh, I used to be permanently employed, but now I do 2 days a week with Mr. So-and-so cleaning his house. And what do I do now to ensure that my NIS contributions continue so that I can benefit at the end of the day? I hope that people listening to us would take the advice and do what is wise.
Of course. And for the people who are, or if you know of somebody who is past the age of 60, but they've been employed for a very long time, they have an NIS card, they don't know if they qualify for an NIS or not, guess what? It's not just all about pension. They have a grant that they can collect once they meet the requirements. Help them to find out, because there's a lot of rumors going around there as it relates to the NIS. If you don't qualify for a pension, then you don't get anything back. That's not true. There's always something there, always something that's available once you meet the requirements. So, as Mr. Bola said, know your status. Give them a call. Find out. Walk into the office. Let them help you. Let them tell you what options are available to you. Don't just go based on hearsay. You know, there are a lot of people out there who probably missed out on an opportunity to benefit simply because somebody told them something that wasn't true, you know. So, you know, don't be that person. Find out on your own what is available to you. But guys, we are so out of time. Mr. Bola, do you have anything else you'd like to say in closing?
Only to wish everyone a happy day and again a happy new year. We've made it through 2019. Let's prepare ourselves for the challenges that we'll face in 2020, but also be prepared for the opportunities that will be coming our way for 2020. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you for listening to us.
So guys, as we close, we always want to appeal to you in whatever you say and whatever you do. Be safe, be secure. For 2020, we want to be talking always with you and never about you. Enjoy the remainder of your day.
I love my Grenada, my homeland forever. Sing the chorus louder, tell them about Grenada, the land of my grandfather. She will always prosper. Oh, my Grenada, land of peace and
Pure Grenada, the small but beautiful and unspoiled tri-island state of Grenada, Carriacou and Petite Martinique is located in the Caribbean with a population of just about 100,000 people. Led by Eric Matthew Gary, Grenada got its independence in 1974 from Great Britain and had 7 prime ministers since independence. Keith Mitchell is the country's sitting prime minister and is also the longest-serving prime minister in Grenada's history. He is described as one of the most visionary, respected, and accomplished leaders in the world. The large majority of Grenadians are happy with his leadership, and in 3 national elections, the people have voted and gave his party an unprecedented clean sweep at the polls. Prime Minister Mitchell has guided Grenada through difficult periods such as the rebuilding process after the passage of Hurricane Ivan in 2004, and the rebuilding of the economy after 5 years of the NDC administration that ran 2008 to 2013. During that period, the NDC government became bankrupt and was unable to manage the economy. They had to resort to selling multiple government properties to the NIS to pay salaries of public workers. At no time during that period was any public officer able to get an increase in salary or increments owed to them. The NDC government was plagued with infighting and scandal. After just 2 years in office, the NNP government paid public officers increases and increments owed to them for the period 2009 to 2012 to the tune of $58 million. An additional 10% increase in salaries was paid for the period 2017 to 2019. A total of over $110 million was paid during these periods. Officers have been relieved from financial uncertainty as they have been receiving salaries on time every month thereafter. With support from social partners, government was also able to successfully implement a 3-year homegrown structural adjustment program. As a result of this remarkable leadership and ability to manage the economy, the World Bank, in 2018, recognized Prime Minister Mitchell as the most outstanding finance minister in the region. The country continues to move on an impressive upward trajectory and is promoted as a model destination and economy not merely in a regional but international basis, as investors have been finding Grenada to be a safe, peaceful, and excellent climate to do business. But how is the NNP government seen locally? The party has been branded by the majority as a party for all that has transformed the economic landscape of the country while providing for the social needs of ordinary people, especially the poor and vulnerable. This social approach of the government has been attacked and labeled by the NDC for the needy and greedy. Although this labeling has angered many Grenadians across party lines and has attempted to sow seeds of discord among various socio-economic groupings, the NNP has remained steadfast in its philosophy and continues to support the poor and vulnerable. Over the last 7 years, over $70 million was spent on house repair. Additionally, 353 housing units were distributed to families throughout Grenada, and 647 more are currently under construction. Hundreds of scholarships are granted every year as a strategy to lift families out of poverty and to empower them. That is why the government spends more than $50 million every year to support Grenadian students studying at universities in Grenada and abroad. As a means of providing further support to families, government paid out over $17 million through the SEED program to assist parents to support their children's education and to meet the basic needs of senior citizens. The government plans to further expand its social programs in 2020 so more people can benefit. To be able to sustain these social programs while at the same time investing in major capital projects such as road enhancement and community development initiatives, government has adopted a multifaceted approach to raise revenue. One such means is the Citizens by Investment program, which has led to significant investment opportunities. This has had a ripple effect, resulting in thousands of jobs for locals and increased business for local companies. It has also reduced the need for increased taxes. In addition to the many projects already started, such as the Silver Sands Hotel, which opened about a year ago, at least 4 more hotels are earmarked to start construction work in St. Patrick's and St. David's. Projects that will rebound to significant benefits for people in the rural parishes, including farmers, fishermen, and the unemployed. This multi-pronged approach to economic development can explain why the government, on returning to the office, has been able to reduce unemployment figures from over 40% under the NDC in 2013 to 15.1% in the first quarter of 2019. Government's focus is now on developing a comprehensive training program to prepare people for thousands of jobs that are forthcoming. The government must be credited for a huge reduction in the national debt. During the 2008 election campaign, the NDC accused the NNP of incurring high national debt, but the NNP has always argued that the debt, which was incurred mainly for major government projects, is not the real issue. The party has explained that the most important issue regarding the national debt is the country's ability to repay its debts. With this philosophy in mind, government was able to successfully reduce the debt to GDP from 108% to 55.8% in just 7 years. This outstanding achievement provides additional room for government to create far more opportunities for the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. On November 19th, during his annual budget speech, Prime Minister Mitchell announced a $1.46 billion budget. One of the biggest focus of the government in this new budget will be to improve healthcare services. Already, millions have been committed to a national health insurance initiative, and JIPA, a US-based company led by a Grenadian, Dr. Castroned, was contracted to lead the process. Responding to a recent video created by a foreign company, coordinated and marketed by opposition elements in Grenada, with the intention to destroy the reputation of Prime Minister Mitchell and to destabilize the government, key supporters of the ruling party say that it is unfortunate that opposition elements in the country will choose to put selfish ambitions and party politics before country, going out of the way to discredit the country internationally with lies and rumors. But Prime Minister Mitchell says his focus now is on building Grenada and providing opportunities for the people, and as a result, he will not allow himself to be drawn into an opposition's strategy aimed at derailing the success of the country. Despite the local party politics in Grenada, the tri-island state of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique continues to be a shining star in the region and a beacon of hope for the economic prosperity of the Caribbean region.
Western corridor in Moline affected by land slippage has been declared a sub-national disaster zone by NADMA. We'll have details to this story and more in the national report. With the details to the news for Friday, January 3rd, 2020, I am Rakisha St. Louis. The section of the road on the Western corridor in Moline St. George that was deemed unsafe for motorists and closed off by the Acting Commissioner of Police Edwin Martin on December 16th has been officially declared as a sub-national disaster zone by Minister with responsibility for disaster management, Senator the Honorable Dr. Winston Garwe, on Friday. There has been rapid slippage of the land from as far back as November 2019, and teams have been monitoring the situation closely. Letters have since been written and issued to homeowners in the immediate vicinity to relocate as the slippage has gotten worse.
Within our protocol from NADMA, that is, we have the ability to look at the extent of damages and to declare subnational disasters. In this case, seeing that it is not the entire country, but it's one location within the country, we can declare it a subnational disaster. And of course, it is a subnational disaster. So the area is declared a subnational disaster zone. We will have to raise funding to do the necessary studies to ascertain the extent of this land slippage. And when that is done, we'll be able to give a more precise set of information as it relates to what exactly is happening. But what we can see as it is right now, the fault line or the cracks that we're seeing is extremely massive. Some areas is, to me, over 5 feet deep in terms of movements, and that is dangerous. The entire area, as I have seen, is unstable and is extremely dangerous for people to be in this area.
The fault line of the slippage has been extended further than was recorded in previous visits, and as such, residents are cautioned to be observant of their surroundings. Registration is now ongoing for the 2020 staging of the Independence Calypso Monarch competition at the Cites bus terminus, and coordinator of the event, Adrian Mark, says there will be some visible changes to the competition in 2020 as the committee continues on its effort to improve the product. The competition is organized by the National Celebrations Committee and coordinated by the Ministry of Culture. We have more in this report from Sheria Noel.
Calypsonians wishing to participate in the 2020 National Celebrations Committee Independence Calypso competition, coordinated by the Ministry of Culture, now have an extended deadline of January 8th to submit their entries. The final of the competition is scheduled for 8 p.m. on January 25th at the Cites bus terminal. Senior Cultural Officer within the Ministry of Culture, Adrian Mark, says the extension is to give everyone wishing to participate an opportunity to do so.
So we have two stages. A preliminary round where Calypsonians are judged via flash drive and CD. And then we name the finalists going up against the Monarch. So we have a preliminary round and then we have a finals. The preliminary round, the Calypsonians are judged using flash drive and CD. Today is the deadline, but I pushed back the registration for the 8th, which is next week, Wednesday. So the Calypsonians, they have to send in their songs on CD and flash drive. And then we have the preliminary judging will be Friday, which is the 10th. And also after the preliminary judging, the same day we will give out the names of the finalists coming up against Sour Serpent.
For the 2020 competition, Mark says there will be some changes as to the number of Calypsonians that will be selected from the preliminary stage into the final of the competition.
We are having 11 coming up against the reigning monarch, which is 12. So we have 3. We give and take. He decided to give and take with me, so we leave out 3. But because it's one song, I always feel that we should have a full quota, which is 15. But because of some constraints, which I cannot make mention, because of some constraints, we have 11 coming up against Sean Niles, the reigning monarch. So that gives us a number 12.
In previous years, 14 Calypsonians were selected to challenge the reigning monarch for the crown.
The Ministry of Culture is really responsible for the Independence Calypso. And this year, I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. But this year, we have something we want to do different than what we did previous years. The thing about the previous years, we just used to have Calypso. We want to do something different, even before and during the intermission. So I don't want to let the cat out of the bag yet, but definitely will be different than over the years, where we just only have Calypso singing. The preliminary round, we have 3 judges. For the finals, we have 5 judges. The competition will start at 8 p.m. Bus Terminus Saturdays. It's a breeding ground for Calypso. I don't know why, because we try to do that Independence Calypso in a different parish, and it was never successful. But every time we have it in Saturdays, it's a successful venture. So it'll be difficult for us to move it because we tried and it didn't work. So the competition will be Saturdays Bus Terminus, 25th of January 2020 at 8 p.m. sharp.
Sean Niles, also known as the Sour Serpent in the Calypso arena, is the defending monarch. For the National Report, I am Sherian Noel.
Thank you, Sherian. This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Did you join the public service on or after February 22nd, 1985 and have since retired? This might be important to you. Government understands that the NIS pension may be insufficient to take care of your needs. So, while it awaits the court's ruling on the matter of pension for public officers, government has taken action to protect your quality of life so that you can take care of your needs in the meantime. Persons who joined the public service on or after February 22nd, 1985 and serve continuously in an established position for a minimum 26 years and 8 months and retired at age 60 may be eligible to receive an advance payment, which when combined with NIS represents 70% of their last salary. For more information, call or visit the Pension Secretariat in the Department of Public Administration, Ministerial Complex, 440-3767.
Welcome back. The government of Grenada extends its deepest sympathy to the children and surviving relatives of former Deputy Prime Minister Mr. Herbert Prudhomme, who passed away on January 2nd, 2020. Mr. Prudhomme served as Deputy Prime Minister under the leadership of former Prime Minister, the late Sir Eric Matthew Gairy. Government also recognizes Mr. Prudhomme's long and valuable service to the constituency of St. John, which he was elected to serve as parliamentary representative on 3 occasions. In reflecting on the life of Mr. Prudhomme, Prime Minister Dr. the Right Honourable Keith Mitchell said, and I quote, "Herbert Prudhomme will long be remembered for his commitment and dedication to the people of Grenada. He was kind, caring and compassionate, a man for the people. He always sought the interest of the ordinary man, a most memorable and appreciated trait." Unquote. Dr. Mitchell remembers the late former Deputy Prime Minister as a very loyal member of the Grenada United Labour Party. He said we must always be grateful for the stellar contributions of those who have helped to develop the foundation on which our country is built. Many persons have made tremendous sacrifices and invaluable contributions to chart our path of development. We are indeed grateful for the leadership of persons like Mr. Prudhomme. We wish him eternal peace. Finally, in the news, schools across the nation will engage in an hour of prayer activity on the first day of the Hillary term on Monday, January 6th, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. The Ministry of Education, Human Resource Development, Religious Affairs and Information has initiated this activity under the theme, Teach Me to Pray and to Understand the Power of Prayer. Annette Moore has more in this report.
The Minister for Education, who met with religious ministers today to finalize plans for the Hour of Prayer, explained where the idea originated from.
The Hour of Prayer is something that came to me while I was in church during a worship session. And, I just sense deeply the Spirit of God saying that on the first day of school, every student across the nation should be praying together for the same thing. And the minute I got that, I started sharing with a couple pastors and ministers. I invited the denominational board that are involved in the operation of our schools. I invited them. to come sit and discuss that. I invited some pastors who have been involved in the work of the Ministry of Education and Religious Affairs, and everyone was totally in support. I am so extremely happy for the support for this initiative.
Minister Pear also explained the thought behind the theme.
This theme was chosen because we want to draw attention to the need to teach our children not just math and English and science, which is very critical and important, but let us also teach them to pray. And not just to pray as in reciting a prayer, but teaching them to pray with faith, that something will really happen when they pray. And that is the whole essence of the activity.
Between 9:30 a.m. and 10 a.m., one of the activities that is expected to happen at the same time island-wide is students being led in praying the Lord's Prayer. Religious ministers and, where necessary, suitably selected representatives have been designated to lead the hour of prayer in schools. As part of the activity, prayers will be offered up for all members of the school's community and the nation as a whole. There will be time for reflection and meditation, and for praise and worship. Ministers of religion who attended today's meetings with Minister Pear and senior officials in the Ministry of Education shared their thoughts about the Hour of Prayer activity and why they thought it was important.
I think it's biblical and not denominational or political. It's biblical, and that's the premise on which I will participate in it. I always read and explain Romans 13 in that regard, where the government is responsible for the discipline in the nation, and the church is responsible for the spiritual realities of the nation. So that is how I put it, that we work together to ensure discipline in our nation. And it comes with prayer also.
I think it's a very great initiative, and it's timely, because in our nation now we realize that the trend that our children or even our students are taking is one of concern. And it's important that we have the presence of God, and it will start in the school, which will positively impact the home at large.
I wish it was more than just the 1 hour this Monday, and it could have been an every Monday event. And I know that's not possible. That kind of gives an idea as to where I stand in relation to that. I believe it is absolutely important. I believe it is beneficial for the school. It's beneficial especially for the children. We've got a lot of children that really and truly have very little idea about God, very little relationship in terms of the knowledge of God. And an activity like this is an open door for further growth and development in that principle.
In general, I feel really good. I feel like a dream come true, like a prayer answered. So many years as a proud Grenadian, I believe in giving back to society and in impacting the next generation, because somebody 25, 26 years ago invested in my life and over a decade, and I now want to give back. I'm presently in schools, some of the schools doing that as well.
Oftentimes we speak about the importance of spiritual values and such like, but it is just talk. Here we are seeing action being taken, real action, to actually begin the school term in this way. The Bible says that if we seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, all things shall be added to us. And this is an opportunity to put God first at the beginning of the term before anything else is done.
The prayer is what intrigued me really, the All Father prayer. I mean, we are crossing a lot of the denominational lines, which is very good, which is something we want to do for years. But also, unity, there's power in unity. All of us coming together at the same time. This is the first time we've seen that in history.
On Monday, staff at the Ministry of Education will also join with schools in prayer at the ministry at the time scheduled for the hour of prayer. Minister Pear says this has also spurred on talks of the hosting of a National Day of Prayer, discussions for which are currently in progress.
This hour of prayer has sparked a lot of discussion about a National Day of Prayer. And so a number of ministers have expressed their willingness to support the government in planning and organizing a National Day of Prayer. We are looking at that weekend in February, where we observe our independence celebration, lead up to our independence celebration. And we are going to be dialoguing a lot more with our religious community, the Conference of Churches, and the Alliance of Evangelical Churches, to work together to find the best program, possible way of observing a National Day of Prayer. And of course, that may more be a weekend of prayer, because we want to make accommodation for persons of different religions.
For the National Report, I'm Annette Moore.
Thank you, Annette. That story just ended the National Report for today, Friday, January 3rd. Let's recap the top story. Western Corridor in Molyneux affected by land slippage has been declared a subnational disaster zone by NADMA. On behalf of the entire news team here at the Government Information Service, I am Rakisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.